that'll make me perfect to this question. So, space travel, do you think that we've already had the technology to go to other planets? If so, do you think we already have and we've integrated with aliens? Or what's kind of your thoughts on that? Because, I mean, I have some pretty bonker ideas, but I wanted to hear your.
Well, I mean, like with regard to like the moon landing and that sort of thing, I mean, I would be more inclined to be in the group of people that would think that they never actually went just because, like, I mean, there's a lot of different factors that one would think about to realize, like, wait a minute, how'd you guys do that? But, like, just the fact that there's like this Van Allen belt that's around the Earth, like, supposedly I'm not sure how thick it is. I'll have to look it up again. I did a lot of research years ago, and then it's like anything, when you're immersed in it, like you remember every little detail, but then after some time goes by, it's
Yeah.
not easy to remember. But basically, like the Van Allen belt is like this radiation belt that's out there in space and supposed to be like really deadly, and you'd have to have a lot of lead to shield it because, as far as I know, that's the only thing that shields radiation. And if you don't have enough lead, then it would be like piercing through the ship and into the astronauts and fucking them up, because it's very strong radiation from what they tell us. And so, you figure out how heavy the lunar module would have to be with all that lead, and then how much thrust power that the Saturn rockets had. And there's people that are a lot smarter than me that have pointed out that there's no possible way because it would have to be so thick that the rockets wouldn't have been able to propel it, off the ground and into space without running out of fuel, or that the rockets would have to be bigger than what they were. And then there's like the argument of like the space suits. So like, they have to be climate controlled, right? They they
Yeah.
they can't be too cold, they can't be too hot, but what happens when you go into a shadow? What kind of sit like what's the temperature difference between a shadow on the moon and in the sun? Like, because there's no atmosphere, so the really hot places on the moon are going to be really fucking hot, like hundreds of degrees. And if you just step from in the light to in the shadows and you hang out there, what kind of a heating and cooling system would you have in that spacesuit to keep them from overcooking or freezing to death? Like, there's just these little just
Wow.
kind of details that, if you think about it, like, yeah, how did that work? How did they do this with technology that was, like no better than a calculator, maybe less technology than a calculator, because I don't even think they had pocket calculators by then. So it's just, you have to think about it logically. And I
Now,
mean, there's a lot of people that think it's just preposterous to question it.
see,
But
that's also the thing. I've people I've heard. But I don't know the exact one, but if you type in and do the research, they say something like when they landed on the moon, it vibrated so hard like a gong for over 30 minutes. Like the whole entire thing, like planet thing shakes, so like it was like hollow on the inside, almost like it was a spacecraft. And I know that sounds crazy too, but it's like there's all these different things out there, and like that's crazy. I never thought about the lead not being able to push because of, how much would that have to weigh. But then what if we haven't been out there? I mean, that's just wild, man. I don't even know. Like that's.
well, and also too, if you think about like when you watch the video of like astronauts kind of like frolicking and hopping,
uh
if the moon has 1/6 the gravity of the Earth, and he's like barely hopping off the ground, it looks like, it's maybe like either slowed down or sped up. If you look at it, like it looks like basically like somebody just hopping and then somebody messing with the speed at which the video is playing. It doesn't look like, because if it's 1/6 the gravity of Earth, like even if you jumped like 2 inches off the ground, you're like a foot in the air with with that same kind of force that you would jump with. But if you like really jumped, like
Oh, you'd probably
say
fall
you're like six
almost.
feet off the ground, you'd be jumping over somebody's head.
Yeah, and no, you're right. I see
You know
what
what
you're
I'm
saying.
saying? Like these are the things to kind of think about now. Like, granted, he had a spacesuit on, I guess, so you could say, okay, well, maybe that's all he could muster. But for 1/6, even if you look at like the lunar rover, like where it drives around and like you see like pieces of dust or the lunar rocks like being kicked up by the tires, you can see in some of the video, like some of the later Apollo videos,
Hmm.
like they should be going. Think about how high off the ground they should be at 1/6 the gravity with that kind of force and torque off of those wheels. You
Oh, like
know,
they should be getting more air when they're hitting
100 feet off
things.
the ground or something. They should like land like miles away, right? These
Wow.
little things, these little nuances that people don't pay attention to. But you have to ask yourself, like, either maybe the moon really isn't 1/6 the gravity of Earth. Maybe it's a lot closer to similar to Earth, or maybe they're just full of shit and they
Well,
used all
there's
the money for something else.
there's no what I mean, like from Saturn, all of its moons, from all the planets, moons in our Milky System, Milky whatever the fuck. There's no other place that has a moon that turns how it does, so you never goes on the other side. There's nothing else like that. That's just here on the Earth, and that's mind blowing. That's mind blowing too. It's like how all the stuff that we can see with the telescope, is this the only moon that turns like that, so you can never see the other side of it?
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, everything about Earth is kind of an anomaly in this solar system, right? I mean,
Yeah, I know that's what I'm saying. It's pretty. That's the thing. Earth is so magical and so great, which is why I question the what is the truth at hand? What is the like for instance Christianity, like is that the true narrative? Like I look at because you look at the Sumerians, which is the first religion that we have any that had any impact on the earth, like the first one from way back in the ancient times. And I bet even before that there was stuff going on that we don't even have any documents of.
oh, I'm sure.
And that's just like, what is the truth that has gone on? And I don't care for the, but how can I put my buckles and chains on? Like for me, I mean I was a Christian for a long time, but I didn't like it anymore because it just felt like another way for me to feel convicted, just disliking myself, not never feeling any fulfillment myself, always having to find that fulfillment through someone else to gain spirituality, versus it's just me, myself, and I have to take care of my spiritual vessel, like what I put into it, what content, everything, and truly taking my own power to myself and not listening, just saying, I'm just gonna have faith in Jesus, and so if the whole system there's something going on, and I'll just let the government, and I'll just let someone else because I'm okay. That's it. I'm fine. That's the end of the spiritual journey, and empowering, like to go on fire, to find those truths, to find out what's going on, and the best way I can activate myself to make the biggest difference in positivity. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you look at Christianity, like I was saying earlier, there's kind of like the esoteric versus the exoteric, and
Mm-hmm.
the exoteric obviously is like, yeah, this guy lived and he died for you, and he's like, you just have to put your trust in him, and like he's gonna do it all for you. He's already done it for you, and that's it. Like, go along with government. Just it's all God's plan, and you're basically like you're just swaying in the wind, whichever way God's gonna take you, and you're essentially like you said, relying on somebody else. I mean, and that's the exoteric idea of Christianity. But then, if you dive into it, you understand that what Jesus was saying is that like we're all the children of this same God, and that he was sent by this God. He and God, the sent and the sender are one, but he is not as powerful as the sender, but he is from the office of the sender. He is, he's like with like McDonald's, like it's a franchise. Like I could own a McDonald's store in terms of like I own that store, but I'm not McDonald's. Like McDonald's determines what's sold and they determine the price and so forth. But
Yeah.
that McDonald's that I'm operating in, or my body, you could say, me, is I am a franchise of that God. Or Jesus is a franchise of that God. Like he is the sent from the sender. And
Yeah.
he basically said that we all were, and that, the things that he did, we can do as well.
Yeah.
And so,
Even
not
greater things.
in greater things. And so, the truth of the matter is not that we should be relying on this man. We should be following this man because he is the way. What he did is the way. And that's the esoteric teaching of Christianity, that if you live your life in this way and you have faith and you believe, truly believe, then you can do great things. The what is it? It's like the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed where it starts really small and then it grows into a large tree, kind of like that
Yeah.
idea. The smallest amount of faith and belief. It may start small, but it grows and grows and grows because you tend to it, right? Because it's a seed, you have to tend to it. So you have good, lovely ideas that are in your mind, things that you think about, and things that you tell yourself or about the world around you. And then you have like some really unlovely things. And it all comes down to which one you water more. If you water the good, then you're going to get more good. You're going to create more good in the world. And so you don't really need to rely on somebody else external to save you, because Jesus never, that was never his message. That was never the message. I mean, it may be like the message that's being taught today, and that maybe even people of the time who didn't understand.
They thought that, yeah, that was. I mean, that's the thing. Like same thing
They
with
followed,
Buddha. Buddha didn't want people to worship him, but there's some crazy works and things that he's done. Like there was even a story I got to hear recently that he, made a rainbow across these huge river tides and had everyone walk over it. It was like this rainbow of light. He got on the other side and then helped the people cross the river, just kind of like when they talk about, just the man who parted the seas, Moses parting the seas, and you know, I believe, being having that connection and being tapped in on that, you can do great things. All things start with a little bit of faith, and it's like having that belief that you have God within because you're a son of God, and like, whatever that may be, maybe it's like that alien, like we have that alien DNA in us that was, from the one Prometheus, and that's what sparks inside of us, or or
that's
this
the thing.
hybrid creature. Maybe it is just a metaphor. Maybe you're right. It's just a metaphor. It's just there's something beyond.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that the more that you start to awaken spiritually, I think the more that that becomes apparent to you. You start to have these experiences, which I've had a lot in my life. And so I didn't come to this conclusion just, willy nilly, like overnight, or like I watched some YouTube video. You know,
Yeah.
I I had these experiences that I couldn't really explain in any other way. And then I tried to go out there and sort of look for not necessarily a belief system, but just look for, things that kind of corroborated what I have experienced myself. Because I think that the experience is what really gets you in touch with God. It's a personal thing. It's an experience. It's not like you're not going to read a book.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, that's the thing. It might give you a glimpse, like that, like a movie or something might give you a glimpse of inspiration that leads you on that path. and like give you that spark, but it's you doing the soul searching and seeing if there's a truth behind it. And that's the thing with people who just say conspiracy theorists, right? Right at the bat, like they haven't done any research or anything at all. They're just like, no, no, no. And that's just like accepting the wool over the eyes. That's exactly what it is. And it's like there's all these reasons why I mean, you and I like talk about like, there's elite groups doing certain pushes in certain directions, and there's other underlying things going on for this bigger picture. And it's not just like, oh, I watched this 5 minute YouTube video. It's like those coincidences, those synchronicities, and then like that, just like when you're looking for an answer to something and you're walking on the sidewalk, and then a passerby walks by you, and the only things you heard him say, who he was on the phone with, is like the exact
Yeah.
sentence, and like you understand the truth, hearing that or hearing it
You
within
know
nature.
that, yeah, you know that you're brought there. That's all you
Or
can say. It's just you like it was by no conscious effort on your part, and you're just like, damn, this is crazy.
I know, divine, dude, the
It
divine.
is. When you feel it, like you get the goosebumps, and you know, I one experience that I've had a lot, and like certain experiences, like made me search out things because, like, after before the experiences, I may not have had an interest in these kind of things, but it was after that I was really, like, damn, I need to figure out what's going on or see if anybody else has had these experiences. Um, but I used to be a member of this group. It was called the John Birch Society, and it's a conservative right wing group, and which I left them like maybe a year after being a member because I'm not really into groups and I don't like people to try to think for me. But we used to have the meetings at this older gentleman's house, and everybody in the group was older. Like they were all like 70s and 80s, because like it's from a bygone era. Like the fight the Russians, Cold War era, and it just doesn't. The message doesn't really resonate with people today. Because they're just out of touch. And but anyway, we used to have meetings at this fellow's house, and his name was Mr. Pence, and he was pretty well off, and we knew that. And I can remember that he donated some money to this guy, who was he was not really a John Birch Society member, but he was pushing John Birch Society videos and like the message there at Purdue. And Mr. Pence gave him a few $100s so that he could display a TV with like a DVD player that was like playing this video on loop, to try to maybe like wake the kids up to what was going on.
Hmm.
And I remember seeing that and thinking in my mind, like, yeah, that would be cool if, he would donate money to me or to my friend Steve, who was the head of the local chapter. And so I didn't tell anybody at first. I just, kind of sat on that idea. And then I went home, and, a period of days later, I was sitting in my friend Steve's kitchen with him and his wife. We were having some coffee, and I just got this spark of inspiration. I was like, man, wouldn't it be really cool if Mr. Pence gave us some money? And as I said that, the phone rang, and his wife answered the phone, and she like brings the phone over to me, and I'm like, who is it? She's like, it's Mr. Pence. He wants to talk to you. And I talked to him on the phone, and he was like, yeah, I need your address. I'm going to send you a check. I swear to God, this happened. I know this happened. Like, this happened to me. And so he sent me a check for $1,000. I swear, I said, wouldn't it be awesome if Mr. Pence sent us some money?
Well,
And
it's
and like, how do you explain that? How do you explain that?
well, you can. It's like when when like I might be, if I'm out somewhere doing whatever, and also I'm like, man, my mom's probably like, if I as soon as I think like, oh, my mom, all of a sudden like then I look at my phone and it starts ringing, and it's her, or like my brother, or like there's something going, like, or a certain time, I'm like, man, it's probably 3:33 right now, and then looking to make, holy crap, it's
Yeah, I get that
3:33.
number a lot. A
Yeah,
lot.
that's a big one at 11:11. That's for sure. I'm looking. Actually, called the other day. I was a huge revelation hit, and then I looked at the package, and it was like 9 threes, just like, and I was like, oh my gosh, dude. You can hear my brother in the
Yeah.
background.
Another time, I had met this girl when I lived down in Indianapolis area, and I worked at a gas station at the time, and I met this girl, and she claimed to be psychic. Like everybody claims to be psychic. Like at least in the New Age movement or whatever, because I was kind of into that.
Hmm.
I can remember I didn't know her super well, but I took her to go get Chinese food one time, and I was sitting across from her, and we both decided to eat with chopsticks. And I had this thought in my mind. I was like, and I didn't say it. I know I didn't say it. And I thought, this is why, and no offense to anybody by saying this, but I was like, this is why Asian people are so skinny, because it's hard to fucking eat with chopsticks. And I'll be damned if she didn't repeat exactly what I said. And I was like, I just thought that. And she said, I know. And I was like, oh, shit. It was
Wow. Oh,
crazy.
dude. Yeah, that's.
I was going through a really crazy time.
I mean,
And that, like, that
I,
shit happens to me all the time.
well, that's the thing. There's only like not only is there's a communication on this level, there's a spiritual communication too. And that's why I feel like you have to be honest and have truth, because otherwise, if you lie, it's almost it's almost in the air. You know what I mean? Like there's
Oh, yeah.
something else going on. Like you're not fully comfortable. Like you just know. Like it's like a different level. It's your intuition. It's everything. And then like there are people that are like they can have that kind of psychic connection. I mean, I've met some very crazy. Like there was one point where the person knew exactly what I was thinking, and like I was hearing their conversation back and forth. I'm not gonna give any names, but like it was almost like I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And then it was like, "Oh my gosh, this person's really attractive." And then it's like, "Holy shit, they know that I'm thinking that like right out the bat, not even by my not even by me saying anything, but just like in my mind, like they can read and feel what was going on in my head." And that day, I remember I was like, "Man, be mindful of your thoughts, Anakin." And I thought to myself, like, now I understand that, like, being mindful of your thoughts is a Jedi. Like, because, like, when I have a conversation with someone, the reason why sometimes people don't feel engaged with other people in conversation is because when they're talking, they're not even, like, having any a true expression on the question. They're just saying filler words, and they're not really dialed into that. Maybe they're in their head because of something else or something else, but, like, there's a way to see when it's authentic or not, or someone like says some stuff and then you're like, that's probably some bullshit. Like you kind of know they're lying. Like I've had some people tell me some things. I'm like, that's a fact. Like not only because the facts sound like absolutely ridiculous. I'm like, why would you even do that? Why would you even lie? And you can kind of feel it and sense that. And there are people on some levels of that, and that's what I'm trying to become more in tune with. It's just awakening to myself on the best value I can, not that only to express that it exists, but like finding other things out and being able to bring that to light. Like I just want to bring things to light, you know?
Yeah, just also be the best version of yourself that you can be. And
Yeah,
day, just try to progress and get better. Because
yeah,
that's important. Especially to try to manifest a better reality for ourselves. If we're all doing our best to be the best that we can, and we don't make mistake or we don't make excuses, you're going to make mistakes, but to push to not be so mediocre, and to push to try to basically accomplish our goals and live our dreams, rather than like the life that most people live, where it's just like 9 to 5. You accept that, I'm never gonna get that job, and I'm never gonna have that good life, and I'm never gonna this, and I'm never gonna that, and feel sorry for yourself and all those things. And I think that, if we have goals and we do our best, I feel like that's the best way to have a fulfilling life, and also just to, make the world a better place. At the same time, achieving your goals, but you kind of put that out there in the world as well, that positive energy. And I think that, people feed on that, the good energy. And I think that somebody with a good positive attitude can have a ripple effect on a lot of other people, just like people with a bad attitude, or if just like the media, can have an effect on people, and it's like a ripple effect. And if you get the media telling people to be worried about this or that or afraid, and then it's like it's contagious. It's almost a virus in and of itself. It's a mental virus, like with the coronavirus, and the fear of it has kind of been like a mental virus too that people have picked up. Like it's like kind of bypassed their logical centers, and kind of their questioning mind, and it's just taken hold. The fear, just like all the panic buying of like toilet paper and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's not based on any kind of logical impulse. That's purely instinctual. And speaking of, being in fear and effects on the body, um, earlier I mentioned a guy named Bruce Lipton with the epigenetics. He's an
Yeah.
expert on that, and he said that, when you're in fear, your body shuts down like all your rebuilding and your healing mechanisms. Because like when you're running, like, I mean, if you think about it, if you're running from a lion, like he kind of used this. This isn't my idea, but if you're running from a lion and you have to take a shit, would you rather stop? Would you rather your body make you stop to take the shit, or would you rather your body focus all of its energy on running? That kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so when you're afraid and there's something in your environment that you're deeply afraid of, it causes your body to not be able to repair itself and regenerate like it needs to. Because I mean, your body, we think, okay, it's our body, like as this one thing, and yes, it is one thing, but it's it's also a lot of cells, and it's like bacteria and even viruses around us at all times, and they have to work in harmony, and they have to fix things that are broken, and they have to kill cells when it's time for them to die and for new cells to be grown. Like stem cells, we still do have stem cells in our body even as we get older. Stem cells are cells that, from my understanding, just, are not any particular kind of cell yet. They're just kind of like they're a cell that has the potential to be any kind of cell,
Yeah.
whatever it becomes. Like it could become like a hair cell, or I don't know, maybe not a hair cell, but
Oh no, I'm getting my hair
almost
back. I'm just playing.
maybe, yeah. There you go. See, I'm trying to help you out. Power of positive belief, man.
Anything is possible. No,
Yeah,
I
right.
know. Yeah, no, that's crazy.
So yeah, if you're afraid, then you're going to be susceptible to all kinds of things.
And even when doctors like come into the room, I mean, I remember it. I mean, it sucks remembering it, but like when I'm with my dad, our whole family, when they said it's the cancer's still progressing, we don't know how much longer, like just by the doctor saying we don't know how much longer or
You
anything else we
internalize
can do.
that shit, man. Like,
Exactly, and then like those next 4 months is like when it was like from like there was hope till that moment, and then after that moment, it was just kind of it was just like a huge drain. Like it just like
well,
it gave up all the hope, and like that's even for myself as an individual, like wishing I could have even been more. I don't know, more of a like more positive. I don't know if that would make a difference or not, but it's still like just for
hey,
that hope, man. Because like if the body can't heal and all that and just gets nailed out, I mean that's why evil villains they want to take away all hope. That's their plan. That's how you are an evil villain. If there's no hope, then
you
there's
crush
nothing
it.
to do.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, if you think about it, before, like an athlete, right? Like if you're a basketball player or something, a lot of that game is already being played before they ever go on the court, like in your mind, like how the game's going to go. And like if in your mind you believe that you're going to lose, when you go out there, you're going to lose. Like you're going to lose before you ever go out there. So it's the same thing like on a battlefield too, right? If you're afraid and you think, I mean, you're going to be afraid. Yeah, don't get me wrong. You're not just going to go out there and be like, because fear can be
Yeah.
healthy. But if you're like psyched out and you're like, I'm going to die, we're going to lose, then you're going to probably lose because morale's going to be low and you're not going to fight as hard, or you're going to, you're not going to be at your peak.
Yeah, I definitely that visualization, even like with a magical practice. If you're just sitting there stuck on lack of and like visualizing this negative stuff, you're bringing that to yourself. Like, of course, and that's kind of why it's like the media and all that. They're feeding you to like be in more fear of the whole virus. We're just empowering it. Like we're empowering the idea of it. We're empowering the virus itself by that. So
Yeah,
then, if
like,
anyone gets anything, even if it's just a slight little cough, their immediately is going to be like, I got it, I got it. It doesn't matter how much nutrition they shove down their throat, it's not going to heal them because their mind, in the mind, is the most powerful weapon.
it is.
And that's why like it forced them to program themselves for destruction. And we have to be liberators, to free ourselves.
Well, yeah, like if you look at Marion County, like they had 300 people dead, I think. That was a couple of days ago that I looked, and there were like 6,000 and something cases of COVID, but they tested 35,000 people. And they don't just test 35,000 people that are like perfectly healthy seeming. You know what I mean? They're not just going to be like, oh, yeah, you that looks really healthy. We're going to test you. They
Yeah.
must have they had to have tested a lot of people that were exhibiting symptoms of COVID but didn't have it. Like almost like they manifested
Oh,
themselves because they're afraid of it.
so it's like people tested. It's like, how many people did we get to come in here? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So by our broadcast, we got an extra 5,000 people going there who just because out of the fear of that being programmed, they go in there.
Yeah, like some people maybe just were curious if they had it, or I mean, I don't know how it works because I know they only have so many tests. So, you'd probably be really careful about who you tested, but I would be interested in how many of those people, like were having psychosomatic COVID symptoms because, they created it in themselves. They're being hypochondriacs. That,
Yeah. And something, I mean, another question, actually, this is my last question I had was, the medical doctors are being stopped from using this zinc with the hydroxyfluoric. Do you know what that is?
yeah. Um, well, I know about zinc. I've heard that zinc is really good for your immune system. That
Yeah, zinc just overall is good with that, but that mixed with this specific
is
uh,
that is it that anti-malarial drug that
hydroxyfluorin can, man, I know I sound like I'm butchering it, but it's like I guess these two things together that this Dr. Corden uh put together, and it basically like it's able to help out with it. And there's these just different like ways of like, instead of trying new methods and stuff, doctors are being told not to go outside and like to go outside of what they're told that they can do in helps of the virus in the first place. So it's like anything new being discovered is kind of being held back to not have any tests with people. But I guess with anything, I get there is a policy and how things work. But another thing is
Yeah,
like,
that's
if there's people who are really wanting to go through with the process, like even when my dad had cancer, there's like other ways to to combat
uh
it, and it's just, do people want to go down those routes
yeah.
versus getting chemo? And it's all kind of the same kind of gist of it, but it's just, I believe that there's new ways, but it does all start with the mind. At the end of
It
the
does.
day,
That's what really starts because if somebody is convinced that there's something wrong with them or they have, I mean, just the subject of cancer in and of itself is such a massive kind of undertaking to get into because there's so many levels of it. I mean, there's like the superficial level, I guess, where it's like not superficial, but the physical level, which is like right on the surface, obviously, like, okay, your body's doing this, and this is metastasizing, and this is growing at this rate, and yada yada, and you've got a tumor or tumors. And then there's also like under the surface, there's like, well, what's the mental and the emotional and the spiritual reasons for why this happened, what kind of behaviors contributed to this, and what was the cause of those behaviors, why were these behaviors being exhibited. It's like it's such a big can of worms to get in for everybody. And ultimately it's like it does kind of come down to the mind in a lot of ways. I mean, I can't say that in every way because maybe somebody's like exposed to some kind of chemical that poisons them and gives them cancer. And
yeah,
so it's not necessarily, but at the same time, them going through treatment or, like trying to heal is part of a mental attitude. So it kind of doesn't matter how you, I mean, it matters to a degree, I guess, how you get there, but it also matters like once you get there, what do you do?
yeah, yeah.
Kind of
No, that's true.
what kind of behaviors do you have? Do you have the kind of fortitude to like dig your heels in and just like fight with everything that you have? Or, are you like looking for somebody to tell you whether you're going to make it or not? Like, are you going to put your faith in something outside of you, like a doctor, where, the doc basically like your idea of whether you're going to live or die, like hinges on what the doctor tells you? Or are you
Yeah,
somebody who's like, well, you say that, I got 6 months to live. Well, I'm going to live longer than 6 months. I'm going to live 7 months and I'll show you. Or I'm going to live 6 years.
there's
You
people that have done that too, where they're like, they gave them 3 months and
have
they
fight.
beat the cancer.
You have that fight because you have that mindset. And so you are talking to yourself every day and saying, I'm going to beat this. I'm going to beat this.
To be a fighter, and at the end of the day, I mean, there's walking is the samurai in a sense, where you walk with honor and greatness, but when it comes time to fight, you also have to be training yourself every day, mentally, physically, and spiritually, to be prepared, because it's not all just coast. I mean, for me, I love running, but not every day that I run am I enjoying the whole process. Sometimes it's like, all right, well, just because I'm kind of getting crappy with myself, let's just go. Let's push it a little bit more and go, like, start going faster now. Then, like, I kind of just giving yourself a little push, just to keep yourself edgy, like making sure that you will fight for survival and to the very end. And I mean, it's hard. I mean, there's a lot going on process, and but it's I am finding you have to have that personal power and that fire inside. And if you don't have that, then whether it's this virus or the next situation that we're going to be involved in as a human collective, unless you take the power within and take action, nothing will be done. And it's like, if we all don't fulfill that, it's gonna be a lot harder to win the grand scheme battle. But that
Yeah.
just starts with you, starts with me, starts with the people around us, and then actually, having action behind it too. So, letting people have more light of information and look deeper and, grow self empowerment. I mean, geez Louise. I know I didn't have that for a while. Now I got it, but my goodness, you see how much we evolve in such a short way of time. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
we do, and it's through the trials of life that we kind of shape ourselves into, whatever particular image that we shape ourselves into. Like when you're born, I kind of like liken creating yourself or creating the person that you want to be is like when you're born, you kind of start with this like just sort of like rough shape, like just this rough shape of like rock. And then as time goes on, it gets chiseled a little bit into shape and then more, by your environment, by other things. But the finer details of yourself and the things that you have to chip away, like you're the one that chips it away. You're the one with the hammer and the chisel that decides ultimately what the image is going to be. Like to some degree, yes, your environment does shape you, but you have the ultimate say so once you become conscious. You have to be
Yeah,
conscious. You have to find that consciousness. And I know that for whatever reason, some people don't, or maybe they have the ability to, but they choose not to. I can't really speak for them because
yeah.
I'm not in that boat. But
It
you eventually become conscious, and you start to shape yourself into the shape that you want.
and yeah, that's I agree, man, 110%. If we don't take the initiative, because we can all blame our past traumas for our future mistakes, but I would rather look at my past traumas into the shape and the lessons, and that's by reading books of like Napoleon Hill and certain things like that, Eckhart Tolle, and other things like that can really stimulate your mind into thinking differently and seeing things outside of just the typical perspective and learning other people's lessons through their lives. And that's why it's great to hear people who you respect who are older than you, or maybe they've just had a lot more life experience and learning the wisdom through them, through their experiences, so you can like add it to yours instead of just not being conscious about it and saying woe is me, because at the end of the day, like, we are in control of what has become and what we are within. And till you want to get on top of that, till you want to steer your own ship, I mean, and you're just hoping everyone else who comes on board your ship will help you out with yours and helping this, that, and the other. And if we don't take that clear dive to be the captain of our own life, then we might as well just sink the ship. In all reality, I mean, that's how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you think about it, would you rather be the one steering your own ship, or would you rather somebody else? Like, you're gonna want your have your best interests in mind. You know what you want. Are you gonna rely on somebody else? I mean, they have what they want. They're obviously not in it for you. You have to be in it for yourself. And it's interesting that you mentioned like Napoleon Hill, because like I know a little bit about his work, but that whole movement, like there were people such as him. There was Joseph Murphy, another guy that was into that kind of like new thought movement, and then there was another individual who I really have studied a lot, and the individual's name is Neville Goddard. And Neville taught that basically Jesus was like a metaphor for the human imagination, and that basically when Jesus was crucified, and this is of course fitting because Easter is tomorrow, so
Yeah.
let's just
Or
get
today, technically.
yeah, let's just get sacrilegious with it. But what Neville taught is that the cross itself that Jesus was crucified on is a metaphor for the God being crucified in our body. Like the cross is, everyone has their cross to bear, right? In the Bible,
Mhm.
you take up your cross. Like his idea was that the cross was actually the physical body, and that basically we could create whatever we wanted to create by imagining the wish fulfilled, whatever that is, and then having like an emotional component with it, like whatever you would feel if that particular thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like it's like a basketball player that he imagines that he hits the game-winning shot and then he wins the championship, and then like the way he feels when he holds the championship, like getting really in depth with it like that.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Embodying that energy. I mean, that's honestly a part of magic. You know
Yeah, and
that.
that was why it was interesting when you talked about magic and how you're supposed to set your intention and kind of focus your will on whatever the desired thing is, whatever the desired state or effect is. And it's kind of the same concept of just focusing on the feeling, because like what Neville would say is that everything in creation is already created. It's not like you have to attain something or make something happen. It's almost like you are like a tuning fork and you tune in to the particular radio station that you're looking for. Like if you're looking for country music, you tune into that radio station and find it on the dial. Just like if you want a certain, result out of life or out of a situation, it's already there. Everything that you could possibly imagine has been created. So there's, I mean, almost like the idea of like, you could say alternate realities if you want to get kind of like quantum physical about it.
Yeah, no, I can see that. It's everything is possible. I mean, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, everything thoughts are frequencies, and like I said, it's third time in this video, and our atomic structure always vibrates all the time. The molecules keeping us together, the atoms. So it's at the end of the day, it all is intertwined, interconnects, which is why you have to be aware about that. So then you can truly start, getting grounded in the way you are, and even with my own self, when I start getting a little frustrated, like, oh man, I don't want to clean all this stuff today. I don't want to do this today. And then like kind of like almost like feeling like sorry for yourself, like, oh man, I have to do that. It's like, dude, why build that energy when it can be like go for it. And then once you start into it, like a lot of other things can come about. Like as I was cleaning today, the house, I was just like, man, this is great. And I'm like, got my say, well, my Palo Santos actually, and burned that in my room after I got done, like vacuuming the floors, cleaning up stuff. And it's just like, it's a meta. It's not only physical, but it's also spiritual. It's like cleaning out things. I saw some like extra papers lying around, organized all my things for the afternoon, and it's just some really cool like as within, so without. And
Yeah.
I just think you have to be very cautious about it, but that's crazy. Actually, and if this has been spectacular, and we're coming up on 3 hours right now.
Yeah.
So,
No.
yeah, I was like, Susie, it's about then. I'll say something, but thank you so much, man. Like, this has been spectacular, and like honestly, the time flew. Like, I'm kind of shocked it's already 1 o'clock in the morning, to be honest. But I knew it wasn't gonna ever. It wasn't gonna stop, dude. I only had a few questions. You're awesome, man. I appreciate you coming on, dude. And like, there's
Yeah.
a lot of empowerment and a lot of truth and a lot of things people are going. I got to cut this into 3 videos. If I put a 3 hour video on, I'd be like, dude, they might be a little bit like, oh my god, man. Like, and I've been actually what I've been writing is like, I got name one, like have like I'll put like part one, like GMOs, our social liberties, vaccines, and like for video two, like you know, um, aliens, Hollywood, just like kind of stuff like that, so people know the general gist of it. So then they're like, okay, maybe I want to watch section two. But man, it was awesome, and I appreciate you coming on, dude. Thank you.
Yeah. I appreciate you having me and listening to my rantings on existence and Everything
It's
here.
not rantings, bro. It's
Yeah.
talking philosophy and spirituality, man. It was phenomenal.
Well, hopefully, people will see this video and will have the patience to sit through it and understand that, ultimately, we don't have all the answers as far as what's going on in the world. We're just seeking out the truth, from a very open minded perspective and trying to figure out what's going on. And we're not just going to take other people's word for it because obviously, there's a lot of deception that goes on. And
Yeah,
we're trying to empower the individual. And so part of doing that is for the individual to figure out what they believe and what they don't believe and to try to build a better world from the inside out. Because I think that's really the only way we're going to do it. I mean, how are you going to how are you going to fix the world when you can't fix yourself? Like if you're flawed, you're not really going to be able to fix the world properly because the world's going to have your flaws in it because you're not working on them. So if you work on yourself and everybody works on themselves, then the world will magically, almost like magic, right, get
yeah,
better.
yeah. I agree because all of us together are a part of the chemical process of the alchemical process that is of the all. So if we all become our better little compound, then we'll all come together as gold pieces versus having some gunk, man. And like that's something for myself. I've been going after, a lot of some positive and great things, but also like, don't get me wrong. I think smoking's great and I love it. Don't get me wrong, but like, I have to not do it nearly as much. And like, I get off it for a while and I can get a little moody, and that's the only thing that pisses me off. Like, other than that, I'm so happy. But like having, even an addiction to where I can get moody without a substance.
Yeah. Well, you just have to treat it like a medicine, I guess. Like if you treat it like a medicine, just kind of like when you need that particular like effect just to kind of like recenter you, then you're okay. If you
Yeah,
treat it like a crutch that like holds you up every day, then you have a problem. Like that's the way that I look at it is I see things like that in particular and other stuff too, like other herbal stuff that like I take. I see stuff as like being a medicine and just like it's not necessarily like a magic bullet or anything, but it just kind of contributes to your overall, kind of gets you where you want to be, like you
yeah.
have to have the right mindset too.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like I understand, like when I'm just going the days, and then if I use it that once, it's way better and it's way more powerful. It's just I can become slippery with it, and I'm besides that, like, because like in the booth when I'm like spitting my lyrics, that's when like sometimes I'm like, man, if I didn't smoke, I could do this even better, and that's where I get upset with myself, which is like, and then let's make it edibles. But I'm unfortunately a edible monster. Anytime I have them, I'm eating it back to back to back. I'm just
Yeah,
like,
well, the
it's just,
effect is a lot different too. You know, edibles versus smoking. The
oh
edibles, the edibles, in my experience, like don't have like they have a very like generalized effect. Like it's not so nuanced like is smoking. Like smoking is very nuanced from like strain to strain to strain. Whereas like edibles or if it's the same milligram, like you get like it's kind of like one effect. I didn't really care for it. It was way different, and it's really hard to come down. Like if you're too up there,
yeah, I know, and it's almost like a psychedelic.
yeah,
It,
and it can be like if you have too much, like you're in for the ride, man.
I know. I had a experience 2 years ago where I was in for the ride in California with my brother, and I also had experience like 2 weeks ago where I had that and a fucking oil rig hit and fucking just it was too much. I got to the point I was at a studio. I was like, I can't even do anything. Like I can't. Like I went too far. I went way too far. But I mean that's just learning the balance and understanding and when to use things and everything else like that. But I mean like besides those principles and everything I've learned everything else though is pretty grand. I mean, has everything been pretty good for you? Or just right now, life with this whole.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still working, and
I see your Instagram post. I'm so happy you got an Instagram, man.
yeah, yeah, I'm still working, so that's good. I'm not worried about money right now. I just got a raise from my boss, so I'm gonna have extra money every week, and so I'm gonna try to like put that back. I've got like 20 grand saved because I want to buy a house. I've been saving for like I don't know, like the last 4 or 5 years. Like a little bit every year, like $5,000 or so a year is what I've been saving. Like I had a goal set, and I'm like, okay, I want to save this much money, and so yeah, I mean, life has
That's
been.
awesome, man. I'm so happy to hear that. That's seriously so cool. I mean, shit, that's huge. God dang, to get down payment for a house finally. God.
Yeah, it's worth it though.
Oh,
I've
without a doubt. I'd rather have that than fucking rent or go anything like that, man. Just something to fucking be able to live in. I mean, that's I'm about to be a driver at UPS. I know it's gonna be a fruition and officially happen because I've only been doing part time there because that's all they have, doing a loader, and it's cool physically and all, but I'm also like only getting 14 an hour versus getting 22 when I'm a driver, and then I get some overtime. So I'll finally have more income coming in. So I'm basically just double downing on the music and podcasts so I can connect to different people, them hear my stuff, me hear their stuff, and as well as like there's a couple people that don't even have channels like like you and stuff that, but I know the conversation's invigorating. Like if 3 hours just flew by like that, I mean every time I talk to you it's like that, but it's like 3 hours flew by like that, then people are gonna just like they're gonna absorb it like a sponge. They're gonna absorb it like a sponge. That's all I can say. These are people that come to my channel.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for people in the comments to be like, "Man, that guy that you had on your show, you're the fucking idiot."
No, dude, there's no way. There's no way, man.
Like he was so full of shit. You idiot. You fucking moon landing denier. You fucking tinfoil hat moron.
Dude, it's
I've heard
I'm
this shit.
I'm just telling you, bro. Like I'm about to have a song coming out. It's like now done. I just waiting for a release because I've been doing a certain process to get stuff released. And I heard it's this dude today said if anyone on my friends list has something about 5G being dumb, and you say you're woke, I'm gonna unfriend you. And I'm like, dude, there's so many people, and it's gonna ruffle some fucking bushes, bro. But I don't give a fuck. Like at this point, even me putting on my wall like my YouTube's working with spirits and all that, dude. I don't give a fuck who sees it. If someone doesn't like me or anything about whatever, I really don't give a shit anymore. Like I'm just more of I love humanity. I want to become more awakened and help out the planet as much as I can and spread positive information. And like, I'm also like on another. I'm a planeswalker. Walk through Heaven's Gate, walk through the abyss. I'm just going everywhere, dude. And I want to learn as much as I can, and spread that
Yeah.
truth to people, man. And some people think it's a little bit wild, but heck, that's why I don't go to church anymore.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we should be able to discuss things freely and put the viewpoints out there and have the discussion with people, and maybe they don't agree or maybe they do. But I think that ultimately that's healthy, to let everybody feel like they can express a thought or a feeling or an opinion without just being immediately like slapped down, because
Yeah.
that's what you see in social media is like, if you say anything, then like here comes the angry mob to like slap you down.
Oh, I
It's
know.
pretty much like
Yeah.
a mob mentality.
Exactly. I mean, that's you bring up an idea that's outside of the main typical, then it's oh shit. But once you start getting over 10% or a little bit more, then you can start kind of changing it yourself. So it's about bringing together that percentage right now so we can start the push towards something new instead of just being pushed and guided the whole entire time. And with the internet connectivity, this is our only opportunity and time to do it. And so it's like we have to take action now. And now times even more, I feel that for myself. I'm like, if I'm not doing something towards it now, whether that's my music or just being on a podcast, and what am I doing? Like at the end of the day, I can make $22 an hour and have a good living, I guess you could say. But like, am I really living if I'm not fulfilling my spirit? So
No, you're not.
yeah, no, oh no. Well, thanks a lot, Michael. I love you, cousin. I really appreciate you coming on, dude. Like, it's been
I,
freaking awesome.
and I appreciate you having a platform for me to come on.
Hell yeah, dude. I can't wait to hear people's responses, and then we'll definitely down the road have a part two, like without a doubt. So,
Yeah, once this stuff maybe calms down, or if it gets worse, then I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about then.
oh, we already got. I know we could have kept going. That's the thing. I know we could hit 4 hours, 5 hours. That's the
Like,
situation. Oh my god. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm gonna let you go right now so I can make sure I can go take a little tutoroo. But I love you, man. Thanks again for coming on.
you too. Take care. I'll talk to you soon.
You too, man. See ya.
Scientist who edit that out.